Hey guys, my name is Grace and welcome to Grace Adventures. Epic Universe has been officially open for almost a year now, starting on May 22nd, 2025, and everyone is starting to have their own opinions on the park. Overall, for me, I love the park, but it had a couple of hiccups that a lot of people were not expecting during its first year of operation. And when I mean expect, I mean everyone had these high expectations for this park during its first year of operation because we are seeing Universal build their theme park empire and take on their competitors Disney, and we are just sitting on the sidelines eating our popcorn. What I'm trying to say is everyone was hyping the crap out of Epic Universe even before it was built, because we were so excited for the new technology, the rides and the lands coming like Monsters and Isle of Berk. And I think this led to people experiencing a park that they were not fully 100% expecting. I think one thing people need to understand is that Epic Universe is not just one attraction. It's one whole new park, and Epic Universe has not found its rhythm quite yet. And they are still in that phase of discovering what their park could really be, and then they will slowly add on to it. But today, I want to point out some of the major things that happened at Epic Universe this past year, as well as some of the things that they are already doing to improve the park and some of the rumors for future attractions. Let's get into it. Some of the things that I don't think people expected to happen within the first year of operation were the ride closures and the uncertain reliability of their new rides. You'd think that opening a whole new park, the rides would be perfectly fine and they would not have any issues for a long time. So I have a story to kind of coincide with this experience. My boyfriend and I were at the pass holder previews at Epic Universe before it officially opened on May 7th, 2025. We went into the park with more than half the rides closed and some of them not fully running at full capacity. And we were not mad about this because there were literally signs before you enter saying that they are in a technical rehearsal, but a lot of other people were mad and some were yelling at the poor employees in the ride ops. And I think this was mostly because the tickets were like $100 each, but also it just looked like the day was stressful for everyone, whether you worked there or you were coming there to experience the park for the first time. Like the only rides we genuinely rode that day were Mario Kart, Yoshi, Monsters, and Hiccups. And all of them had at least 60 to 90-minute wait times, as well as multiple technical difficulties. We waited an hour for Mario during a technical difficulty since nothing else was open, so we honestly probably waited around 2.5 hours to 3 hours just to ride it. Battle at the Ministry at the time had the limited virtual queue, and the drop times only happened 2 times that day, and it opened at 3 in the afternoon. And Stardust Racers and Minecart Madness were down for the entire day. The shows were delayed and many of the attractions were running at limited capacity. So pretty much the entire day, Juan and I tried out the new foods because we were making the best of what we could do that day. They at least gave out free tickets to people to come back another time. So Juan and I went back in December for a way better visit. I think the big headlined controversies this year for Epic Universe were about the closures of Stardust Racers, and it was really because a man passed away riding it on September 17th, 2025. I don't want to go too much into this, but the man who was pronounced dead at the hospital was in a wheelchair and already had a pre-existing spinal injury. So his legs did not work properly, as well as having metal rods in his back due to his spine surgery, and he also had a prior hip condition. The family of this man sued the park, but it ended in in an amicable resolution. A medical examiner described him as having multiple blunt impact injuries, and at the end of the investigation, investigators said, upon reviewing the document compiled with the sworn statement and video surveillance, it appeared that all employees of Epic Universe followed their standard operating procedures and did not act in a careless or neglectful manner. Universal also updated their safety and accessibility guide for their parks, and even prior to his death for Stardust Racers, one of the standard operating procedures was not for guests with back, neck, or similar physical conditions, and that is still in place. The coaster was shut down during the beginning of the investigation, and if my research is correct, it was only closed for about 3 weeks. Continuing on from that, Stardust Racers has not had the easiest year because it dealt with the struggles of the cold Florida weather, with it valleying, as well as running only one side during different operating times. Not to mention, another thing that happened with Stardust Racers is that the ride was shut down for its first planned inspection and maintenance process for about a month during the spring break season. They had to extend this temporary closure, but they were making pretty good enhancements, like adding more capacity to the ride. Another ride that stirred the pot this past year is Harry Potter Battle at the Ministry motion simulator ride. Now, a personal opinion for the so-called hype that this ride got: this is literally a D-level attraction. The queue line is one of the best themed queues that Universal has ever made, but the ride did not quite hit the same mark. I think it was a huge risk that Universal took a risk on a whole new ride system for Battle at the Ministry. This is manufactured by SimTech Systems as their first Hexapod dark ride, and if you look at their ride portfolio, there's not a lot of stuff they have done. I'm not saying this is the reason why their ride is so unreliable, but it's a little telling. The number of times this ride would break down as well as close early is bonkers for the ride with the most popular IP in every Universal park, not just Epic Universe. This ride constantly has a 3 to 4 hour wait time because the capacity is so bad. My boyfriend and I waited 4 hours to get on Battle at the Ministry when we went back in December, and I think the worst part about it, in my experience, was that one of the main animatronics that shaped one of the big scenes was broken. You could have watched this ride on YouTube because it was so screen heavy, and I feel like I would have gotten the exact same experience. Like, I'm so sorry, but that ride was not worth wasting 4 hours of my time. I rode Stardust Racers 6 times in less than an hour and a half, and some people are saying Battle at the Ministry is the best ride at Epic Universe. No, that's insane. That's literally crazy. I just think they should have done a little better with the Wizarding World IP at Epic, giving it a more dependable A-list attraction with good capacity. And I feel like this is something they should have improved on with Hagrid's at Islands of Adventure, because Hagrid's also has bad capacity and breaks down a lot. Overall, there is just a huge capacity problem at Epic for the crowds that it is bringing in. Other than the closures, Stardust Racers is one of the best rides at Epic Universe, not just because it's a racing coaster with many different elements, but because it has high capacity. There are genuinely only 3 rides with good capacity, and that is Stardust Racers, Monsters, and Hiccups, and those are also my top 3 favorite rides in that park. Don't even get me started on Minecart Madness. I waited 2 hours for that ride for the onboard audio to not work, so I just ended up watching it on YouTube for the full experience. Mario Kart only sits 4 to a car, and you have to wear these heavy goggles the entire time. And for me, at this point, just ride Men in Black, because that ride is more interactive, competitive, and fast-paced, if that's what you're looking for in a shooting dark ride. I also want to point out, in terms of capacity, they do not have a lot of indoor attractions. If Florida does a Florida thing and there is a weather delay, there aren't that many indoor rides that can take on crowds like that. I mean, you have Monsters Unchained, which is a similar ride system to Forbidden Journey, so that's a good people eater. And you have the shows, but then you get Mario Kart and Battle at the Ministry with bad capacity, and there's a huge chance that either one of them might break down, especially Battle at the Ministry. And you have the restaurants and the shops, and that's about it. But genuinely, within the first year of Epic Universe, there have been some inconsistencies with the attractions, and this is really the main issue that they need to solve moving forward. I think the good thing is that, like I said earlier, Universal has already had ride closures in order to improve the park, like with Stardust Racers and Yoshi's, so they're already starting to solve this issue. I think once they fix the inconsistencies with the attractions, the next big step for Epic Universe is expansions, and many of them are already being rumored. There is room for a lot of undeveloped space for expansions, so Epic Universe has not even reached its full potential. One thing they are currently working on right now is outside the park walls. They are creating space for an event building. This will most likely be used for corporate events or special after hours events, but there is also a big catering kitchen as well as more office space. It has been seen that they have been testing photo validation at the portals, possibly making Celestial Park an open hub like City Walk. Now on to the portals in Darkmoor. There is rumored to be a Creature from the Black Lagoon boat ride located between Monsters Unchained and the Burning Blade Tavern. There are some Easter eggs pointing to this already, one being outside of the park walls on their empty plot of land with the strategic placement of Monster Cafe statues with Frankenstein and Werewolf facing up since they have rides open and Creature facing down, hinting that the ride will be themed to him coming soon. There are also some Easter eggs inside the park in Darkmoor hinting at undeveloped and expansive areas for Creature, so it is very possible it could happen sooner rather than later because Monsters is owned by Universal, so I can easily see them expanding this into an indoor boat ride, making this their first edition since Epic's opening. Also, it was seen that they filed a permit in March for a future attraction called Project 680, but it was removed like the next day, so we will see if anything like that shows up again. For the Wizarding World, there is rumored to be a ride themed to the French Ministry of Magic near the back of Paris. It's rumored to be a broomstick ride, but it's still very blue sky. I also saw that there are rumors that this ride could be themed to Fantastic Beasts. For Super Mario, there is a rumored Luigi's Mansion ride for Super Nintendo World, as well as an expansion for Legend of Zelda. Personally, I think the Legend of Zelda expansion is more realistic first, because there are already Easter eggs of characters from the game, like Link, Princess Zelda, and Ganondorf. I hope I pronounced that right. But they have Easter eggs of them in stained glass windows at the Nintendo Superstar store. I don't see any of these expansions happening in the near future, and by that I mean give it like a couple years, because Universal has really put its focus back into Islands of Adventure and Universal, and those parks desperately need that attention. At Island of Adventure, they are working on getting rid of the last of the restaurants and attractions for the Lost Continent by 2027. On May 15th, the Mystic Fountain closed, and that was technically the last attraction in that area. So rip to the Mystic Fountain. They are also working on a lot of needed improvements at the Studios Park, like a reimagined horror makeup show. They are closing down Fast and Furious Supercharged in 2027 to make way for the new Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift Coaster, that is replacing Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, and the contract for The Simpsons is rumored to expire in 2028, making way for another IP to take on that area. There are also rumors that they want these Nintendo characters to expand into these parks like they have done with the Wizarding World universe. So a lot of the speculation is that Legend of Zelda will take over the Lost Continent area at Islands of Adventure, and Pokemon will take over the Simpsons area at Universal Studios. I think what Universal has done with Epic Universe is great, and from my May visit to my visits in November and December, you can tell Epic has improved so much already, like improving the crowd control, the dispatch timing, the technical difficulties, and the guest flow patterns. And doing all the things that I just said, that would require them having a clear refurbishment timeline for these attractions, like how other theme parks do with their rides, coasters, and areas. And this kind of routine maintenance is necessary to keep their rides and areas reliable and operating over time. So what do y'all think about Epic Universe during its first year of operation? I would love to hear y'all's thoughts in the comments below, and I would love to have a conversation with y'all down there. And thanks y'all for watching Grace Adventures, where every day is a ride, and may your next adventure be epic. Hopefully at Epic Universe.